Hi, I'm Cecil McNeil, a writer filmmaker. Welcome back to my vlog. If there's any detail you need to know about me, is that I'm a huge reader. You can't be a writer without being a reader. If you don't know, now you know. In this era that we're all glued on our phones, it's important to also make time for reading. I can't emphasize it enough. So I'll quickly share my 2025 read. A little about me, I've shared it in my previous vlogs. I typically read a fiction for my entertainment, a non-fiction for my edification, and poetry for my soul. My 2025 read list is as follows, but just with a little bit of extra. As always, nerd glasses. I'm a book nerd and I'm proud to be one. All right, here we go. Here's what I read last year for fiction. I started off the year with To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. So this book, it's a classic and it's been on my reading list forever. But I don't know. It was okay. I think maybe if I had read it closer to my teens or early in university, I might have appreciated it more. But I mean, I get what it's going for, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. Next one I read was The Spare Room. So this book has been on my list. Like I actually sought the book out. I ordered it all the way from the US because I couldn't find it here in SA easily. And because her sister Julia Bartz, I read her book I think the year before, sorry, 2024. It was my favorite book of the year. So when I read about this, I even watched her interviews, everything. I was so excited about this book. I don't know, maybe it was because of I don't know, said during COVID, and maybe because we're past that and we're not in lockdown anymore. Maybe that's why I didn't appreciate it as much. And also maybe because, I don't know, as a reader, you evolve and change. Maybe the topic of interest of the book was just not what I was into anymore. I don't know. But for me, it was just okay. I think the main thing is that it sold itself as this, scandalous, story with a touch of erotica and all that stuff, but kind of fell flat. Which she said she didn't want to go into too much details, like explicit details about that. But then it's like, then they'll sell the story as something that it's not. But yeah, it's an okay read. It was not bad, but it wasn't my fave. Then next on fiction list was the latest Percy Jackson. So Rick Riordan, I mean, he wrote the Percy Jackson series. That's like 5 books, and then for years, the series was over, and then suddenly he restarted it. So I was nervous at first because, funny enough, even though I'm a huge fan of Rick Riordan and all his other works, the Percy Jackson series, the book, I didn't really enjoy the most. But these ones, oh my god, I really fell in love with the world. Because unlike the previous Percy Jackson books that, are set in with Greek mythology and all the other mythologies, and it has all these larger than life stakes. These ones were low stakes set on Earth, and I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much, I immediately bought the next one in the series, The Wrath of the Triple Goddess, and Rick Riordan is hilarious. If you like quick read, like fast paced, fun, just funny, he's your guy. Like I really, really, really enjoy his work. I can't wait for the third book when it comes out. Then the next book I read was this one called True Biz by Sarah Novak. So this was, yeah, by far the deepest book I read last year. It's probably the deepest book maybe I've ever read. So the author is deaf, and then she wrote it from the point of view of a deaf person. And the cool thing with this story is that it has like signs. Okay, I'm trying to find a page. For instance, a lot of the dialogue is like written like that, and a lot of the time there's pictures with signs where she'll like explain stuff like that. So initially at first I didn't care for, especially the fact, what drove me crazy while reading the book was that when anyone spoke there were no quotations, even if they were speaking, and I'm like, "Ugh." But then she explained, like, for a deaf person, they can't hear, especially someone that's born deaf, and even if they learn to speak, it's just air and sounds to them. I mean, not even sounds, it's just air, pushing air through the mouth. Like, if they want to say this, then it's like pushing air. So it's why a lot of people who are born in deaf communities, maybe deaf parents, then they just choose not to speak because for them, their eyes and signing means everything to them. And she mentioned something called like EITH, like a lot of them, Earth, it's EAR, and a lot of them prefer, they want to call it eyes, like, because their eyes is so important for them since they can't hear at all. So the story follows a girl who's losing her hearing, Actually, she is pretty much almost deaf, but then she is born, both her parents can hear, and so they spend all this money and time, getting her ear aids, trying to get her to hear. Then she eventually can't cope in a regular school, and she's always rebellious and fighting because she has all this angst. She can read lips, but she can't hear, and she's frustrated and feels not loved, especially by her mother, because it's like all her mother cares about is trying to get her to hear. Then she goes to a deaf school, and then she's open to this whole new world. And I experience this in America, where a lot of people, they call them the deaf community, and they have their own culture and their own way of life, and they don't want to mix with people who can hear. And at first I didn't. I was just like, well, I even had an argument with a girl who can hear, and she was all for that. And I said, but if someone can make their kid hear, why are you painting as a bad thing? After all, hearing aids are invented to help hearing impaired people to be able to hear. And they're like, yeah, but what if they don't want to hear? What if they're happy with their silent culture and all that stuff? So yeah, this book is just, it pulls you into that world and just makes you see another perspective that you didn't know before. And I read a lot about the author afterwards, and no, she's pretty cool. She's very into that, and yeah, it's a very good read. I finished this book in about a week, and that's rare for me, as a mom. I know there's so much going on, but I could not put it down. It's a very good read. Next book I picked up is The Husband's Secret, so by Liane Moriarty. So she's someone that I have never not liked any book of hers I picked up. Like anything I pick up by her, I like it. So this one at first, it just started, somehow, but eventually I was sucked right in, and I could not put it down until I was done. One of the funniest descriptions in the book was when she described the lady. She's like, she looked like a pretty ferret. And immediately I saw her face. It was the most hilarious thing. The next book I picked up as Children of Anguish and Anarchy is the third book in the series of Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. So just like, I don't know, the second book that I did, I covered it last year too. I don't know. I think this series, I mostly just completed it because I just wanted to support her, and she's a Nigerian young author, and I saw a bit of myself in her and all that stuff. I don't know, man. It was okay, but just like the book before, it was okay. I think only the first book was actually something to write home about. The rest were just okay. So it is what it is. Last fiction book I read last year is called Sophia, and it's written by Shafinaz Hassim. So I actually met her, and by the way, last year I ended up joining 3 book clubs. So I'm in 3 book clubs. So when I met her, I found out about one of the book clubs, and then someone just convinced me, bye, that's the book we're covering. So when I joined the book club, their next meeting was in exactly 6 days. So I read the book way before then, and I finished it. So the book, see, I liked the world, like it sucks you. I even told her that I really just love the font. If you can see it, it's just so pretty, and the book, the interior is so pretty and all that stuff. Now the topic is domestic violence, especially in a Muslim community, and the worst part is how even though her family knows she's being severely beaten and abused by her husband, they essentially do nothing about it. And I remember even asking the author, is this, I don't know, did you, and then at the end of the story, like, he ends up leaving, and then, yeah, she finds herself and blah, 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 but, guys, I normally read just before bed. That's when I read fiction. Oh, God, it was very hard to read and then go to bed. I was just thinking about, it was very depressing, I won't lie. And as a modern day woman and a feminist, there was a lot more you wanted her to maybe hit him back one day or fight back at least, and then she just kind of doesn't. And then she just, even when he leaves, then she's sad, and I'm like, you're sad that he left, really? This guy that treats you like nothing. And then she now finds herself in a way, but yeah, it's fine. Maybe I told the author that maybe she's been authentic to the culture, but personally, yeah, no. And I'll be remiss not to mention my own titles. If you don't know, Susan McNeill has published 5 books. We Rule the Night, Every Sun Doesn't Rise, Echoes of Mercy, The Breath, and A Requiem of Loss and Dreams. So, check me out, DM me. Keep reading, y'all. We can never read enough. See you in the next vlog. Bye.